People ask me a lot, how do people get away with these false reports to CPS? And it's like so many people are saying, it was falsely reported, this wasn't true, and they still took my children. How do we stop, vindictive neighbors or exes or something from calling CPS and having your child removed because you don't like that parent?
We're back. This is The Secret, How to Fight Child Protective Services and Win. I'm attorney Vince Davis, and my co-host is Aaron Carranza. Aaron.
Yes.
Did you have a question for me?
Yeah, I do have a question for you. From Facebook, people ask me a lot, how do people get away with these false reports to CPS? And it's like so many people are saying, it was falsely reported, this wasn't true, and they still took my children. How do we stop, vindictive neighbors or exes or something from calling CPS and having your child removed because you don't like that parent? Or, you're not popular with the group, the board at the parent conference meeting or something. Like, is there legislation that we can write? Is there something we can do about anonymous complaints?
Well, you said it. Change the laws. Give more safeguards to parents. I can't tell you, and since I've been a lawyer for over 30 years, I can't tell you how many times I've come across cases where they are, false reporting by other people other than social workers. Like there's some witness. Now, I had a case not too long ago where my clients were up and down that ABC was false, and it turned out that ABC was true, and she had not been telling me the truth. So it goes both ways. It's just one of those things that you have to deal with when you deal with people. But if you want to change the law, that's what I'm talking to people about today, voting.
Right.
You can vote in legislators. You can, vote in and vote out judges. You can vote in and vote out Congress people at the federal level. So, you can change laws. But, it's hard to do. I asked someone the other day, I said, who was complaining, about the CPS system. And I said, hey, did you vote last time? Well, honestly, Mr.
And of course
Davis,
they said no.
Right. Honestly, Mr. Davis, I did not. I wouldn't admit that to anyone, but no, I didn't vote, Mr. Davis. And that's just...
On the local level, so important, you know.
And there's, that old saying, if you don't vote, maybe you don't have the right to complain.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to, say, social workers, if a social worker doesn't like you and they decided that since you guys don't like each other or they don't like you or whatever the case may be, and they decide not to give you your child back simply because they don't like you or they've changed reports, what's to be done with that?
That's very difficult because every situation is different. If you ask the woman who raised me, my grandmother, she'd probably say, make sure you get along with the social worker no matter what. Now, but if you ask me, I say, hey, make complaints. Make formal written complaints. Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C., U.S. Justice Department, Civil Rights Division, make complaints here in California at the state level or wherever your state is. There's a head of, CPS or Department of Social Services where you can make complaints. You can even make complaints at the local level. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, I don't usually advise it because you're asking, the chicken to guard the chicken coop or the fox to guard the chicken coop, right? So I'm not a big fan of local complaints, but maybe you should do that. And sometimes you want to look in the mirror. You want to look in the mirror to see if there is something you've done, to turn the social worker the wrong way.
Right.
I had a conversation with some folks the other day, and it was a group of people, and they asked me, had I ever had, as a minority, have I ever had any problem with the police, on a police stop? And I said, well, I'm 63 years old, and I can safely say that I have never had a problem. And the reason why I've never had a problem is because my father taught me, an African-American man, from a completely different generation, told me when a police officer stops you, it's yes, sir, and no, sir. It's yes, officer, no, officer. All right? Now, I was just taught, now, to treat police officers differently. Today I see a lot of people, they get into interactions with police, even if the police are wrong. It doesn't matter.
Right, they get combative right away.
Even if the police are wrong. Now, that's your right, I guess. That's your right. But I'm from a different generation. So, it's one of those things. It's something for every individual to decide. I have a daughter that's 27, and she feels completely different about her quote-unquote rights. Right? Well, I didn't feel that way when I was growing up.
So if everything is copacetic with the parent, those roots are wonderful, the parents and everything that they're supposed to do, and the social worker is still anti-dad or anti-mom and is completely looking the other direction and favoring one parent over the other, where is still start the complaining on the local level and then work your way up, or
I skip the local
because
level.
It seems like a popularity contest is happening. I hear a lot of parents talking about well, he just doesn't like me.
Right, Aaron, but let's go out of the CPS world for a second. Don't you hear the same thing when other people get together as a social group?
Oh, right, but they're not taking away someone's child.
It doesn't matter.
Because they don't like them.
But, Aaron, it doesn't matter. It should matter, but people are people.
That's true.
But people are people. Hey, when you were in school, there were cliques. There were, people or teachers that didn't treat you fairly. When you were at a job, same thing. My boss doesn't like me. My supervisor doesn't like me. It's always the situation. So you're just seeing what's reflected in normal life in our communities, happening at the CPS and DCFS level. Right? But, social workers are people. There's good social workers, there's bad social workers, and there's a lot in between. Right? A lot in between. So let's not expect that just because they're dealing with your children, you expect them to do something differently.
You don't expect them to be fair.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Right. Do you expect all police officers to be fair?
1 minute.
It's not fair. No.
Right.
No. I agree with you. But you would think that going into this line of work that you could be fair when it comes to someone's child, and you can clearly see the child is suffering, and
you
so it morphs into something else.
You should think that, but I guarantee you, when you turn my age, you'll know what I'm talking about. You can't expect people to act differently just because you think they should be acting differently. Now,
of course, you're right.
You would hope they would, but these people are just people. Good and bad. Hey, we got to take another break. All right? This is The Secret, How to Fight Child Protective Services and Win. We'll be back with more calls, more questions, right after these messages.